All right, everybody. So we didn't actually get to do this last night, but we're kind of a little bit ahead of schedule. So on the screen, I pulled up the score account. The student version will kind of look like this. But we have opened up Chimdia's app. She said it was okay to see it. We won't see any personal information here, anything like that. So I just want to show you what the list looks like when you guys put things in here because it will kind of help you put your list together and give you a more realistic version of what you have going on with your list. Okay. So when we meet in your small groups, we're going to do this in a little bit more detail, but I just wanted to show you guys what this looks like. And don't forget to invite your parents. I will figure out this weekend, parents, how to invite you in here. So Chimdia, can you give me one school that you're thinking about putting on your list?
Temple.
Okay. We're going to put Temple University. So it's pulling up Temple University. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and put Temple in here. I'm going to suggest that for you. Okay. So I'm going to suggest that school for you. Okay. Now, when we go back to your account, oops. Yep. So you see here, what does it say under Temple for Chimdia? Suggested by Nicole Mitchell. Says the acceptance rate is 83%. And what is in the bottom left corner?
Likely.
Likely. So according to this and what grades are put into her portal, she is likely to get accepted to Temple. Okay. All right. So give me another one.
Let's just go for Penn. Penn State.
Okay. We're going to do Penn State. Which campus?
Abington.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to put suggest. I'm putting that on here. I can suggest colleges, and parents, you can also suggest colleges too. So what does it say for Penn State as far as her chances of getting in?
Very likely.
Very likely. They tell you what the average SAT score is that they accepted last year at ACT and their acceptance rate. Okay, but if you put main campus on there, it's going to be more selective than Abington. Okay, give me one more school.
Let's try a reach school. UPenn.
Oh Lord, University of Kansas, going for it. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Uh, Come on now. Which University of Pennsylvania? There we go. All right. I'm sorry. Hold on. I was supposed to suggest that for you. All right. So I'm suggesting that. What does it say in the? Doesn't say anything, does it?
I think you gotta scroll somehow.
Oh, there we go. What does it say?
That's a far reach.
So for most of you, it's gonna say far reach, okay, or reach for Penn. I don't care who it is. If you're number one in the class, if you're number one in the universe, it's gonna be a reach for everybody, okay? So when you guys are putting your list together, and I don't want you guys saying that I'm trying to be a hater, okay? We're just looking at the numbers, okay? But just because you see that this acceptance rate is 6%, does that mean that you should or should not apply? Oh, we're going to go ahead and shoot our shots, especially if you're close or you are close to those benchmarks. Absolutely. We have kids that get into Penn every year. We've had kids get into all of the top tier and Ivy League schools. So why can't that 6% be you? Okay. All right. Now, also, parents were asking me about college visits. So what I'm going to do is actually go into the calendar. I don't know if it looks like this on your screen. I'm just going to pull it up on mine. So when you go onto your screen, on your home screen, I think it's going to be on the bottom right hand here. Okay. It'll show upcoming events. But when I go to my calendar, your view will look a little bit differently. These are all of the colleges that we have signed up to visit already. So parents, you'll also have access to this too. Students, there will be a button over here on the side that you can click register and it allow you to sign up, okay? So if you see here, we have Boston University coming, Moravian University, Penn State, Stevens Institute, Commonwealth University, High Point, Indiana. And for the first time ever, the University of Penn is coming to visit. I didn't even know they did visits, but they are coming, okay? Also, Bucknell is coming, okay? DeSales is coming. So you guys can register for these visits, okay? All right. The other thing that I want to show you, and I'll put this is the other link that I promised you. I'll put this in the chat for you now. For those of you who want to go ahead and so you like those features, Chimdia? What was it that you guys liked about the features so far in here that you saw? I just saw your comment just now.
Oh, well, I like that it kind of shows you like at least a somewhat accurate acceptance rate so you can see how you look so far. And that was
Mm-hmm.
just with my GPA, so you could kind of see how you look so far with whether you're going to be accepted or not. And you could
Mm-hmm.
go from there whether you're going to apply. So and it looked pretty simple on your side of how to do it.
Yep. And so what I want you guys to do is to make sure that before you send your scores anywhere, let's have a conversation. I have a little hack that I can show you how to find your average score. You can look on here as well. And then we can kind of go from there. All right. So I just put a link in the chat for the beta test for the FAFSA. So this is somewhere in the FAFSA website, but the webinar that I was on, they dropped it in there. So I have the link. All you're going to do is you're going to request access. Okay. And then you're just going to start putting information in here. And they're going to keep letting people do it until they get whatever quote number that they're looking for to test out. Okay. So for those of you who want to go ahead and try to get that FAFSA done this weekend, work on it and let me know. Also in here, there's a 1-800 number in here since they are doing beta testing. You're a parent. So here is the information hours of operation for FAFSA. So they're open Monday 8 to 9, Tuesday 8 to 8, Thursday 8 to 6, Saturday and Sunday they used to be open, but there's been a lot of movement in the Department of Education. It looks like it's closed on the weekend. Maybe in the fall it'll open up to more hours. We'll see. But if you want to get help, you just click on there. Okay. All right. So any questions about those two things so far? All right. Well, we're going to go back to our PowerPoint. So let me just find that real quickly. And we'll go ahead and open that back up for you. So just give me a second so I can go ahead and open this up. Boy, if you guys saw how many tabs I had open right now. Okay, let me find it. Is it here? All right, there we go. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. So hold on one more second. All right, there we go. All right, so for this last segment here, we're going to talk about the FAFSA and financial aid. All right. Okay. So if you guys are with me, I just want to make sure all the tech is working. Drop in the chat, say, show me the money, secure the bag. Drop something in the chat so I can have proof of life that I did all these gadgets correctly tonight. So drop that in the chat for me. All right, show me the money, show me the money, show me the money. And then one comment says the score replaced Naviance from last year. Absolutely. Naviance is gone. I was not a fan. So yeah, so we're gonna use score in place of naviance. Okay. All right. So now we're gonna talk about financial aid. We're just gonna go bare bones on this because we will have our financial aid night coming up. I think it's on Wednesday, November the 5th. We're gonna do one that's in person, and then on, did I say February? November the 5th, the day after election day, and then on November the 12th, we're gonna do a virtual version. And any other evening events that I have for this year, I'm gonna have two versions. One, because sometimes people are busy, but most importantly, just to be honest, I know that there are times when our community doesn't feel safe leaving their home or going places. So we'll also always have a virtual option just to make sure that everyone is included in everything. So I won't have the camera open during the presentation. We'll give you your own separate presentation. Okay. All right. So when you guys are filling out your FAFSA application, the first thing you're going to have to do is create an FSA ID. Okay, an FSA ID. And so that pretty much is like a username and a password that you're going to be using so that you can create your account. So the student needs an FSA ID, and you're going to also have to have one parent that's going to also do an FSA ID. Okay. There's a whole bunch of different situations or scenarios as far as the FSA ID, but typically, I'll just give these very quickly. So for students who live with both of their biological parents, and they are married, okay, and they file a joint tax return, okay, then you only need one person to do the FSA ID, because what happens is when you do your FAFSA, there's a section in there where you're going to pull in your tax return. So for those of you who have older students, or if you did the FAFSA when you were in college, it took forever because you had to type in and look at this box and look at that box and do all of this and do all of that. You don't have to do that anymore. You just match up your account to the IRS, and the IRS dumps all that information in there. And then there are a couple of other boxes where you may have to put in some other information. Okay. So again, if your parents do a joint tax return, then it's just one FSA ID for the parent, one for the student. Now, parent, if you have already been in college before, or you have an older student and you did the FAFSA, there's an FSA ID floating around in the system for you. So try to see if you can retrieve it by yourself first. Then you hit the thing where it says, I forgot my ID. Try that second. And if that doesn't work, then I need you to call the 1-800 number so that they can fix that for you. Because if you try to go through the system and guess around and put something in there, it's going to lock you out because they have record that you're in there somewhere. Okay. So scenario number one is student and parent. Now, if you live with both of your parents, or there's two parents in the household and they're married, but they file separately, or both of your parents are not married, but you live with them and they file taxes separately, then all three of you need an FSA ID number. The student, parent number one, parent number two. You guys got that so far? All right. If you have two parents, you live with one parent, but your other parent lives in another household, they're asking you to determine the parent that you live with 51% of the time and that makes the higher income. You decide who that is, and that particular parent is the one that does the FAFSA. Okay. So again, the student needs an ID, that parent needs an ID. But the same rule that we said earlier, if your other parent out of the household, you're going to choose that parent. If they are remarried and they're filing together and all that kind of stuff, then you'll do that. So we'll do that on a case by case basis. Okay. So you'll do that. Now, can you drop in the chat and let me know if you had a student that you did a FAFSA for last year? Is there a parent in the group that did a FAFSA last year? Because if not, I'm going to skip this next part. Okay, so last year they made some adjustments to the FAFSA. It appeared to be a lot easier than it was in years past, but there were still some quirks in there. Okay, so last year what you had to do is the student did their FSA ID, they started filling out their end of the application, and then there was a portion where they had to put in some information to invite the parent, which I didn't like. And I was like, who thought of doing this? This is like crazy, right? They wanted the student to put in the parent's date of birth and the parent's social security number. Can you guys drop in the chat, parents? Do you guys want your kids to have your social security number all willy-nilly, texting you asking for your social security number, walking around with it on a sticky? No. Who wants that, right? But that's how they had it set up last year. Well, they got rid of that. Okay. So now what's going to happen is the student's going to do their FSAID. They're going to fill out their whole application. And then at the end, they're going to put your email address in there. It's going to send you a code. You're going to type the code in, and that is going to connect you. Do we all think that's a better way? Please drop in the chat. Yes or no. Does that sound better? The new way? Absolutely. And so that's how it's going to go for this year. Okay. So you're going to do your FSAID. You're going to do the FAFSA application. So once the student does their part, they're going to do the electronic signature. Then the parent's going to do their part. And then they're going to do the electronic signature, and then it's submitted. So parents, you don't have to go back. You sign it, the student sign it, blah, 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 blah. They had a lot of fall off from that. So once the parent does it, it's submitted. Okay. Now, then the third thing is at some point, hopefully the state or the FIA state grant is going to be available on time. They were very, very late this year. They came out the week before school ended. That's a whole nother situation. But you're also going to fill out your FIA state grant application. That's going to determine if you're eligible for a state grant. And it only takes about maybe 5 to 8 minutes to fill out that particular application. Okay. So the grant is only good in the state of Pennsylvania. You got it? In the state of Pennsylvania. But there are 6 what they call reciprocal states. West Virginia, I think it's DC, Virginia, Ohio. I can't think of the other ones, but you can take up to $600 with you to the new place, okay, to the new state. All right. But you'll go into more detail on Financial Aid Night with that. All right. Now, it says here that there are 3 types of college loans, but there's actually 4. I forgot to put it on here. So number 1, you're going to have your government loan that you get when you do your FAFSA application. So every student, for the most part, is considered a dependent student because they either live with their parent or guardian. Even if they live with their grandmother, most students still have contact with that other parent. So they're expecting the student to get that information from that other parent to do their FAFSA. So all dependent students are eligible for $5,500 the first year, $6,500 the second year, $7,500 the third year, and $7,500 the fourth year. If you're an independent student, then they get to borrow more money, and there may be some other aid that they can get, like from the state of Pennsylvania and some other places. Okay. The second loan that's not on here is called the Parent Plus loan, PLUS loan. I'm not a fan of that one because most of the time when I see a Parent Plus loan on a financial aid award letter that comes from the college, they usually come out in the spring. The award letter, when the student gets it, has a 0 balance on it, and they get excited. Oh, I don't have to pay any money. Yes, you do. But sometimes I see that Parent Plus loan is like $30,000, $20,000, $10,000. For me, that gives me heartburn, upset stomach, diarrhea, however that commercial goes on television, right? So basically, that's a government loan. The interest rate is lower than a bank, and you can borrow up to the cost of tuition or the cost of attendance. But there have been some changes with the government, and I think that there's a threshold. I think you can't borrow any more than $20,000 a year, and I think it might be a total of like $50,000 or something you can borrow. They'll give us those exact numbers on Financial Aid Night. But I just get very uncomfortable with people borrowing that much money. That's your business, whatever you want to do. But remember that the interest rolls over and over time, and that can cause some problems. Okay. The third loan is called the PA Forward loan. So this is a loan that the FIA state grant people, they've managed this particular loan. Allegedly, this interest rate is lower than a bank. However, be careful if you've borrowed money for a car or borrowed money for a house. You have something called an origination fee that you have to pay in some cases. And sometimes when you tweak the numbers, it might be better for you to go to a bank than go to PA Forward. This is not my wheelhouse to advise you on this, but our FIA state rep, I usually have you guys either email that person or call them if you want to have some conversations about the loans and the numbers, okay? And then your fourth option is to go to a bank like PNC Bank or Bank of America, wherever, and get a loan. The one thing that students always say to me, well, Miss Mitchell, I know that I owe some more money on this with my financial aid letter, but I'm just gonna get a loan and I'll pay off the rest of it. Students, the only loan that you guys can get on your own is the government loan. There are no pre-checks or credit checks or anything like that. You're just eligible for it. Any other loan that you get, you have to get something called a cosigner, right? Or you have to get somebody to pull it for you. Okay. So just be mindful of that, but we'll talk about that later. Okay. So I said a lot. So does anyone have any questions so far about the last 2 or 3 slides that we did? We talked about FAFSA and we talked about federal loans. Any questions? Okay. I'll just look, and if something pops up, I'll stop. Okay. Now, when you guys are doing your FAFSA, okay, phase one is you're sending out those files. So you're doing your FAFSA, you're doing your FIA state grant. You may do that college scholarship search or CSS application. And again, that's for about 250 private colleges that will be asking for that additional information. So all those scenarios that I gave you about this person is divorced, this person is married, taxes done separately, all that kind of stuff, honey, none of that matters with the CSS profile. They want everybody's information. They want the dogs and the cats information. Okay, they want to see everything that you have. So some people get irritated. Why do I have to give up all this money? Well, information. Well, if you want the money from the government, you have to give the government this information. Okay. So it's a longer application, but again, only 250 plus schools in the country require that. Okay. And also, the fee I think might be like $25 or $40. But again, you guys have used fee waivers for your SAT, and this application is on the College Board account. So when you go in, it's going to automatically recognize your waiver, and it's gonna zero you out as far as the payment. Okay. All right. The second thing is the wait. So you guys are going to be doing this FAFSA in this weekend, or you're going to be doing October 1st, November. In most cases, you're not going to get your financial aid letter from the college until the spring. With the exception of those of you who did early action applications, sometimes those letters will come with the application, or it may come in like January, February. So I don't want you to think that 1 or 2 people sent you the letter earlier and then everybody else is slacking. Back in the day, the FAFSA didn't open until January. So most of those letters didn't come out until March, April, or March or February, March or April anyway. Okay. So most colleges are still on that window because they just don't have the manpower to get those out earlier. So you're just going to have to be really patient. So that's the other reason why we want you to get that done early. So that way, when they're ready to send out letters, if you do everything in the windows that we ask you to do, you'll have all your letters well before May 1st. Okay. But if you are applying to those Ivies and top tier colleges, and when I say top tier, it means that their acceptance rate is much lower. They don't send out their letters, acceptance letters and financial aid letters, until either March the 31st or April the 1st. That's when those letters come out. Okay. And then phase 3 is the decision. So again, in 98% of the cases, you have until May 1st to drop your non-refundable deposit. Drop in the chat and tell me what non-refundable means. What does non-refundable mean? Put it in the chat for me. What does non-refundable mean? Can't refund it back. Can't get it back. What does non-refundable mean? you're not getting it back. Okay. So I'm going to tell you, it's going to be at least two of you in this class, whether it's in the Zoom account or in your class, that are going to get accepted to their first choice. They're going to get really excited and they're going to drop that non-refundable deposit without getting a financial aid letter. Then in the spring, they're going to get that letter back and gasp and pass out because they're like, I owe this much and I dropped the deposit. I'm not getting it back. And then they're going to end up waiting for a letter from another school and dropping another deposit. All right. So just wait. Now they will get sneaky and try to send you letters to give you a sense of urgency or fear of loss that you need to hurry up because if you don't do it in this window, you're going to miss out on something. Just ignore all of that with the exception of those of you who are applying to some kind of an honors college and they've given you like a full scholarship or a partial scholarship. And in those cases, you do have to put in your deposit earlier. Okay. So just be mindful those deposits on average are going to be between 250 and 500. That $1,000 is like some random niche art school up in Vermont somewhere, but the average ones are going to be between 250 and 500, especially if you're going to stay on campus. There's going to be a dorm deposit and there's going to be a deposit to hold your spot. Okay. So if you do everything early in the windows that we ask you to do them, you'll have your letters back early. You'll have time to go through the letters. And I love going, I'm just a weirdo like that. I love going through those letters and looking at them because I find errors in them all the time. And if we want to do appeals and things like that, I'll help you with those things. All right. So please, if you want me to take a look at those, I would love to take a look at them. All right. We're almost done. Here's some other random stuff. Okay. So for every $10,000 that you guys borrow, okay, if for the federal government, let's just say, or anywhere, you're going to have a $100 monthly payment. So I would love for you guys not to have to borrow anything, but that's just not realistic because the scam, I'm not going to say it's a scam, but just the way college is set up now, it's just really expensive. It's really ridiculous, right? So most people have to borrow something, right? So if you guys are borrowing $60,000, what is your monthly payment? Drop that in the chat for me. If you've borrowed $60,000, what is your estimated monthly payment? $600. That is a luxury car payment. That is a payment in the wintertime when you had the heat on high and everybody has the lights on in every single room. That's $600, right? So for those of you who are trying to move on to your parents' house and out of your parents' house and go live on your own or live with your friends, it's going to make it that much harder for you to move, right? So some of you may have to do that, but just think about that before you do it, okay? The cutoff for students' income on the FAFSA, this number is incorrect. I forgot to, right? That's a lot. That's a lot of money. I have a friend that had $140,000 in student loans. Between borrowing that, borrowing for graduate school and some other stuff, I'm sure they probably made some late payments or held off their payments. 120 something, $150,000 in student loans. That's a whole nother conversation. Okay. When you guys are doing your FAFSA, students do have to report their income if they work. And so if a student, now I think the number, last year's number was $10,000, the cutoff for a student. Once a student's income goes over $10,000 for the year, that's when it starts to have an effect on the FAFSA. Not a big effect, but some of you guys do work a lot, right? So just keep that in mind when you're doing your FAFSA, especially for those of you who are independent students, okay? You never want to borrow more money than your first year salary. So you have Score, you have all these other apps that you guys can do some research to see, okay, I want to major in this thing. How much money would I make on average when I get into like the core of my career? How much money will I get my first year? You also want to look to see, in Pennsylvania, you may get, like, for instance, my family has been trying to get me to move to Atlanta. They don't pay well down there in the school system. So Miss Mitchell's going to be staying right here, right? So the same thing with all of your careers. You may get paid more money in a different state, okay? So you want to take a look at that. So don't borrow any more than your first year salary, especially for those of you who are going into the ologies, sociology, psychology, or careers that are more people friendly, education, all that kind of stuff. And you're trying to go to these high end schools, you're borrowing all this money, but your first year, you might not make enough to make a dent in those payments that you need to make. Okay. We already talked about getting co-signers for your loans, and we already talked about completing your FAFSA ASAP, and that those deposits are due on May the 1st. Okay. All right. A lot of you guys are saying, Miss, I just need to get a scholarship. You don't want to get a scholarship. You want to secure the whole entire bag. You want to get scholarships with an S. Okay, scholarships with an S. All right. So when you guys are getting your financial aid letters from the colleges, and again, I'm going to send you this whole slide deck. So you can take a picture and write it down, but I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to put it on that website of the link that I gave you guys. You want to ask, is it renewable? Meaning, am I going to get this scholarship every year? So the colleges have been doing a much better job of giving you guys renewable scholarships that you're going to get every single year. Okay. But sometimes some of the schools are really nice and they give you some literature at the bottom of your letter and explain to you, um, that they are renewable or not. Some of them we have to email and ask, some of them we have to go on the website and do some research. Okay. Will your scholarships be stacked? Meaning, if you get some outside scholarships from private organizations, will they allow you to add every scholarship that you receive, check that you receive, until your balance zeroes out? Okay, that's what you want. But some schools will do something called displacement, which means you did all this work to get this scholarship, all these scholarships. And if they've given you some money, sometimes they will take some of your money back. Foul, right? But some of them do that. So some of you, especially if some of you get like these huge full tuition scholarships, or some of you actually may get some full ride scholarships. Every year we have at least 3 students that get full ride scholarships. Then what we'll do when we have our local scholarships, we have a number of people who supply those scholarships that write the checks to the students. So we'll make sure that you only apply for those. Now, according to the policies, you're supposed to report the scholarships that you receive, but that's your business what you report. Okay, that's your business. That's what you're supposed to do. All right, but I'll help you find out which ones those are. Okay, there are 3 types of scholarships that you guys can receive. Number one, your institutional scholarships. Those are from the colleges. It will either be a merit based, which means it's going to be based off of your extracurriculars and grades, or a need base, which means it's going to be based off of your income or financial aid information is going to get sent to them. Or for those of you who are need based and your grades are stellar, you are going to get a combination of both of them. Okay. Now, some of you guys, if your income goes below $120,000, there's certain colleges that are top tier Ivy League colleges, the way that their financial aid is set up, that you will be able to get free tuition, room, and board, depending on the income level that they have. And we'll see those as you get to those, okay? Then you have your national scholarships. These are typically larger amounts, or it might be full rides. You're competing against the whole country, but those have started to open up now. So that link that I gave you guys, there's a scholarship tab in there that gives you a whole list that I have. It's not all of them, but the key ones are on there, okay? And they're usually renewable. And then you have your local scholarships. Those are the ones that people send us and we post them. So those come in between December and June. Okay, so I'll post them regularly. I'll show you where those are posted. Okay. All right. Any questions? So I think I only got one more slide to go. Any questions so far? All right, I'll keep going and I'll just look at the chat. All right. So with these scholarships, students, I need you to do something for me. I need you to work this like a part-time job, okay? And that's the other reason why we want you guys to get this done early now so that you can be finished hopefully in October, November, and then you guys can go ahead and take a little break, take a nap, pause, because we would love for you to enjoy your senior year. So many cool things to do. And for those students that did work on these over the summer, or they're kind of done in September, October, but just tweaking some things, they end up enjoying the rest of their year. And that is what I wish for you. But you're going to do this like a part-time job. You're going to be applying for these scholarships. Most of them are not going to tell you that you got anything, or if you didn't get it, you're just going to fill it out, keep going to the next one, okay? Um, Again, people start to get tired in the spring. So there are some students that get every local scholarship that they apply for, either because they did a really good job and or they may have been the only student that applied for that particular scholarship and they have to give that money out. All right. I have students that have gotten about $5,000-$6,000 just with local scholarships because they came every week, looked to see what we had, and they filled them out. Okay. There is no such thing as a low amount. Don't turn your nose up. If there's some book award that's $200 or $250, because that might be one book for you. Okay. So you want to make sure that you fill those things out. Okay. All right, so we're at the end now. So again, I have two groups that are set up for you. I haven't set the dates yet, or I set the dates, but I didn't send them out yet. But you guys can sign up for my small groups, which are the ones where we're gonna go through the college application process for Norristown. We're gonna do some score, do some Common App, and just show you some other stuff I didn't want to go into detail about tonight. And then for those of you who still need to sign up for SATs and ACTs, we'll have two small groups for you guys to do that as well. All right. And then that's it, right? So we got your back. So before I forget, I need you guys to do something for me and I need you to do something for you. Okay. So for my parents in here or my guardians in here, what I need you guys to do is not to harass these kids every day about their applications. You're annoying. You're getting on their nerves. And they're going to stop talking to you if they haven't stopped talking to you already. Okay. So don't ask them every day. Don't badger them every day. I would highly recommend that you guys pick a day once a week or a day every 2 weeks that you sit down and talk about college stuff. Okay. Don't do that every day. All right, students, you're annoying. You're getting on your parents' nerves because they're asking you to do stuff and you are taking your time. Please drop in the chat for me, guys, and let me know that this stuff is going on. You're getting on your parents' nerves because they're asking you to do stuff and they're tired of chasing you to remind you to do these things because they have other stuff to do, right? So I need you guys to stay on top of your deadlines, to stay on top of your stuff. If you think you're going to be that person that is going to be behind, you're going to procrastinate, then what I need you to do is just email me and say, Miss Mitchell, can you put me on recurring appointments? Can you make an appointment for me once a week? Can you make an appointment for me every 2 weeks? I will go ahead and put it in the computer and give you recurring appointments until we leave for winter break, right? I guarantee you won't need any after that. But you want to do that. Parents, if you're feeling so strongly, well, you tell me, am I supposed to wait 1 week or 2 weeks to talk to this kid? If it's that pressing, just shoot me an email. Let me know what you need, and I'll make sure I get it done. Unfortunately, that's what I had to do for my daughter because I was getting on her nerves and she was getting on mine, right? So I just talked to her counselor, and then we just kind of just went from there because I didn't want all this drama popping off in the house over the college stuff because it will happen. Okay. The second and last thing that I want to talk to you guys about, and we'll talk about it again later in the year, is parents, I need you guys to have conversations about what your budget is for college. I had a slide that was in here. I don't know what happened to it, but it kind of gave you a budget of if you owe this much after all of the math is done, you owe this month, a month. So you need to have a conversation. Are you able to pay $100 a month on a payment plan $400 a month on the payment plan, $600 a month on the payment plan. Realistically, what can you do? We don't want your student to get all the way to spring. They've already got excited about this school, and you can't afford to do it after you do your math. There is some of a link that you could go on the school website. It's called the it's not called the fast for estimate. I can't remember, but it's a link that you can use. I'll send it to you later, where you can kind of do an estimate of how much money you think you're going to get from this school and how much you're going to owe. Okay. So I'll send that information to you guys, but you really want to have some open and honest conversations about that kind of stuff. All right. So students, again, make appointments with me. Be clear about what you need. Don't walk into my room and you see I have people in there and just walk away and don't come back. Communicate. I will find spots for you. Okay, but again, Mondays, I don't book people outside of school in third period. So those are the best days to get me. Mondays and or third period on any day. All right. So that's all I got for you. All right. So does anyone have any questions? You can either put it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Just be mindful that the recording is on. And then if you have a question that you don't need everybody else to know, you don't want on a recording, when I turn it off, we can talk offline when people come off. Okay. All right. So what questions do you guys have? Okay. No questions? All right. Well, if there are no questions, either I did a good job or y'all are ready to go. All right. So I'll send you guys this recording. I'll put the information on that web link that I gave you guys for my website. So I'll send it out either tomorrow or sometime this weekend because I got to do some stuff. But please know we got your back. Don't worry. I know y'all feel jaded because y'all didn't have Gear Up, but most of the country doesn't have a Gear Up. Y'all are fine. All right. So we want to make this experience the most pleasurable experience we can. So the more work you guys do ahead of time, the more success you're going to have. All right. So thank you guys so much. And if you have any questions, definitely shoot me an email. All right. So have a great night and have a great weekend. All right. So I'm going to stop the recording.